Hi, I'm Ron Nutter, and this is another edition of Tech Bites with Ron Nutter. And in this version, or edition rather, I'm going to help you get Powerline over Ethernet working with your smart home network. And that starts now. And I'll tell you up front, doing Powerline over Ethernet is not the first thing I did with my smart home network. And if you've not heard the term before, let's do a quick review. Basically, you're using a device like this, and this one is from TRENDnet. You're using this device as essentially a media converter. You're taking an Ethernet connection here, turn it over, we can see a little bit better, and then running it over your own wiring inside the house. Now, when do you want to do this? Well, if you've got an older house, say that's, well, we'll pick a number, 40 to 60 years old, it's going to be pretty challenging, especially if you didn't build that house, to figure out where you can run the wiring. You're going to have to drill through the floor at a minimum, and if you're trying to hide it in the wall, then you've got to drill through studs, and anytime you've got a finished wall, that becomes a very challenging situation because you're going to have a lot of mess to clean up, a lot of drywall patching to do, and do you really want to do it? And a couple of years ago, I will admit, that would have not been my first choice. But I've got this running at a family member's house as well as mine. And right now, I'll tell you, the streaming that I'm doing over YouTube is going over Powerline over Ethernet. So I think that speaks pretty well for how well it's doing. If you look, when I started this series on smart home working for you, the first video or two, I think I was running wireless, but since then I wasn't real comfortable, since wireless is not a full duplex situation, getting that to work. Now, there are two main types of Powerline over, or Ethernet over Powerline adapters. Let me get the terminology in the right place here, and let's take a quick look at them. Now, this is one that has an outlet in the front of it, and then it plugs into the wall, and then whatever you still need to power after that can plug into that. Now, this is the one that I started with, and let's get the highlighting off there. This does not have an outlet. So if you're outlet starved, this probably isn't the one to go with. And you'd want to look at this one. As you can see, they're within a few dollars of each other. And you see this one's 600 megs in speed. This one is 500. Let's get something cleared up. That is a theoretical number. And here's why I'm going to say theoretical. In the ones that I've got that are both the 500 and 600 meg theoretical speed, you've only got fast Ethernet here. What's fast Ethernet? If you're not used to working with network, that's 100 megs in speed. So what this 500 to 600 megs in bandwidth is going to do for you is that means you can have multiple devices of these running. And so you can have device A talking to device B, device C talking to device D. And so you won't really be starved for available bandwidth. But now here's where you need to start looking at which one is best for you. Setting money aside, let's look at the best option. And it's going to depend on your internet connection. And if you're using some sort of modem or router that the ISP has supplied, you've got to factor that into the equation as well. And here's why I'm mentioning that. If you've got, say, my backup connection is a 200 meg pipe. Well, using the 500 to 600 meg adapters seems like it's overkill, but when they're only 100 meg Ethernet, you're really not going to push past what that connection is available. Now, if you had like I do, and I've got Google Fiber, and I've got gig fiber running to the house, well, then this might not be a best option. It depends. You can get power Ethernet over Powerline adapters that will have supposedly a gig in speed. They'll have a gig port here instead of a 100 meg port. But do you really need that? And here's the thing to look at. The more of these you have running in the house, and with the TRENDnets, for example, you can have 8 of them in a common configuration. I don't want to use the term ring because that refers to token ring, but in a node configuration. So if you have a lot of direct node-to-node conversations, you're going to be using probably 200, 300, 400 megs of that 500 to 600 meg cap. So you're going to get good performance. But if you're doing mostly end device like streaming media receiver out over the internet, then will that gig device help you if your internet connection is only 200 megs? So I would say probably not, but that is a decision you're going to need to look at and see what's best for you. But those are some of the things that I run into. Now, when you get these, and it's a real simple process, I would get a power cord with no surge protection in it that has multiple outlets. Plug, like when you get the starter kit, plug both of these in, and when they get powered up, you will press the sync button here, or maybe labeled pairing. Hold that for about 3 seconds on one adapter, and you'll feel it click, and then you'll start noticing the power light blink, possibly the Ethernet. It just depends on your particular device. I'm trying to speak this in fairly generic terms. And then go to the other device and hold the sync or pairing button on it. And you got to hold for about 3-4 seconds, somewhere in range. You know, the exact directions for what you're going to use will give you the best idea. And they should sync up with fairly quick. Now, I've seen some that say they automatically discover. Well, it's automatically is nice when it works. So I generally prefer to do the normal route. So once you've got the connection established between them, your power light will be on solid. The Ethernet light should be fully lit at that point, but it's the data light that shows you activity is going on. That won't be showing anything until you've got this up and running. I have been very impressed. I've used both of the brands that you've seen. I've got one running in a family member's house, and I've got 2 others running here. So there are times when it's really nice, and I've got this stream to YouTube running over one of those devices. So I think that speaks to how well they work. I've seen a couple of flavors of these that also have a wireless access point built in. I've not had a chance to test those because I've got a pretty good wireless configuration in my house now. But if you're wanting to, say, use like the Smarthome 4-channel Pro device that I've done several videos on showing how to use that as a garage door controller, you might want to look at getting a version of this type of device that has wireless built in, because you could put this near where you're going to have the Smarthome. It should be a fairly low power, fairly localized wireless signal, so you're not becoming an ISP for your neighborhood, and that way you can get signal to that device at probably less cost than having to put another wireless access point out there. And if you don't have capability to run a wired Ethernet connection, that means you're having to do a wireless bridge configuration, which now means you're repeating a wireless signal, and it's just not, you're not going to get the best results, I think, in the long term. So these are some things to look at, and it really is. I've set up 2 different brands, and they've both been very straightforward to work with. Now, if you want to have the most protection on this, couple things I would recommend. Number one, let's face it, when have you ever bought a device and it's had the latest firmware from the factory installed? My case is 9 times out of 10, it doesn't. So check with the manufacturer of the device, get the latest firmware down, get it on all the devices, and you'll probably want to have them paired first just so it's easier to kind of work with them. And then I would suggest considering going to the next step, and that's generating a custom encryption key between these devices. So it's not using what's factory default, and it's an additional layer of protection. Now, do not plug these into a surge protection strip. If it's doing any sort of surge protection or clamping of voltage to where if a power surge comes through, that it filters that out and prevents it from damaging devices, these are not going to work well. Trust me, I made that mistake. If you are plugging these into a GFI, or I believe the other acronym is AFC, basically they're special outlets that if they sense a problem, they'll automatically trip an internal breaker to the outlet and shut themselves off. These are not going to work well. They need to have pretty much a direct connection to the electric power in your house. So one thing to think about is if you have a lot of power surge problems, these may fail prematurely. I'm not saying they're going to fail at all, but that's one of the first things I would expect to show up is this. So this is something to consider. Like I said, we've talked about several options, picking the right one for your situation. I have been very pleased so far. I'm much more pleased than I would have thought. And when I'm streaming video over it live to YouTube, I mean, that pretty much speaks for itself at how well that it's going to work. So you can't go wrong with either one of the ones that you've seen me put in the descriptions for this video. I've got affiliate links on there. And having said that, if you do buy those, really appreciate it. I do get a small commission on that one, and that helps to go the ongoing costs with the development of the book that I've been working with on this one, which is Making Your Home Work for You, a DIY smart home guide. I am anticipating right now to have this for sale the 1st of July, maybe the middle of June. I've put a lot of hours into it this weekend, and I'm getting really close to where I feel comfortable releasing it. You will see almost all the videos that are up here on YouTube linked to it in the book. So I go into some detail in the book that I don't in the video, and then you have the ability using a QR code or a clickable URL link to go to the video from the book, and they'll be available on both Kindle and paperback versions. I'm already starting to write the second book. I initially didn't think I was going to do more than one book. It's obvious now that I'm going to have to, because there's a lot that I really couldn't get into this book, because this one, I could have been writing this book for another 6 to 8 months, but then I couldn't have gotten it out. And it's just, there's always going to be changing. I'm thinking probably coming out with one of these a year. So there are affiliate links in there. Like I said, I do get a small commission on that one. If you buy something, I really appreciate it. The other thing is, if you're not in the point where you're buying some smart home tech, I do have a page set up on Patreon, and I encourage you to consider becoming a patron of Tech Bytes RN. You can get in for as little as $1 a month, and that is for any number of videos that I produce. So right now I'm doing about 2 to 3 per week. So we're talking less than 20 cents, actually less than 15 cents a video. And these are ones that I don't ever plan on taking down, because even when some of the information is aged out technology-wise, they're still there for a reference, so you can kind of see how things were working at one point and then going on from there. So there's several ways there. I would encourage you to subscribe to this channel. In fact, someone just did today. Thank you very much. I've had several people sign on over the past few weeks. If you also want to go through and click the little bell icon once you subscribe to the channel, then you will also get, or should get, I've been hearing some reports that YouTube is not doing this all the time. When I do produce or release new videos, that you'll get a notification when that happens. I've got a mail list up and running that will be also used for that, just as a backup in case YouTube is not getting the notifications out. And if I come across any special deals on some of the smart home technology, or if I produce a new video that I want to get out quickly, if you subscribe to that, that's another way I can let you know, because I want to do as much as I can to help you get this up and running. So we've been going on for quite a few minutes, gone over several things to think about, and it's really this is now in the second generation of this technology, and it really is something that is going to be very straightforward to implement, and it's something that is worth considering for use with smart home technology. And there's even a potential when if you've been looking at the video series I've done about smart homes for the traveler, or traveler smart home, depending on how you want to look at it, these potentially would have a place in that as well. Although this would be probably something I wouldn't bring on initially, it would help you get around some of the running a bunch of cables over the place. So it's worth considering. But anyway, I've gone about as long as I try to on these videos. I don't like much go on over about 15 minutes. Thank you very much for your time and watching. Thank you for those who have subscribed to the channel. If you haven't, would appreciate your considering to do so. And if you have any questions, you'll see on several of the videos where I've had folks post questions and had a good dialogue with one of them, which is why this video got done about the Powerline over Ethernet adapters, because that has a place within the smart home. It definitely can save you a lot of hassles and time on having to run wiring. So, hey, I'm always looking for new ideas, because I want to be as helpful as I can to you on this one. and we all learn something out of the process. So thank you very much for your time, and we'll see you again soon.